Welcome to Lesson 11. Hello again, I'm Pastor Nate. Thank you for continuing Bible Pathway Part 1. In this lesson, we'll learn a story from the Old Testament. It is the account of Ahab, an unbelieving king of Israel, his wife, Jezebel, and Naboth, a man who owned a vineyard that Ahab wanted. Let's join our instructor, Pastor Peter, beginning with a reading from 1 Kings chapter 21.
Sometime later, there was an incident involving a vineyard belonging to Naboth the Jezreelite. The vineyard was in Jezreel, close to the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. Ahab said to Naboth, "Let me have your vineyard to use for a vegetable garden, since it is close to my palace. In exchange, I will give you a better vineyard, or if you prefer, I will pay you whatever it is worth." There was nothing wrong with Ahab's initial request. God does not forbid the desire to acquire something. Trade, exchange, and healthy ambition are not bad in and of themselves. But Naboth replied, "The Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors." Naboth was also not wrong to refuse to sell his vineyard. In this case, his land was part of the inheritance he had received from his family. Note that the Old Testament Israelites were not allowed to permanently sell their inheritance as recorded in Leviticus. So Ahab went home, sullen and angry, because Naboth the Jezreelite had said, "I will not give you the inheritance of my ancestors." He lay on his bed, sulking, and refused to eat. His wife Jezebel came in and asked him, "Why are you so sullen? Why won't you eat?" He answered her, "Because I said to Naboth the Jezreelite, 'Sell me your vineyard, or if you prefer, I will give you another vineyard in its place.' But he said, 'I will not give you my vineyard.'" Jezebel, his wife, said, "Is this how you act as king over Israel? Get up and eat. Cheer up. I'll get you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite." This is where Ahab and Jezebel begin their sin. The 9th and 10th commandment tells us, "You shall not covet your neighbor's house, and you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor." Coveting means having a sinful desire or craving in our hearts for something that God has not given us the right to have. When we envy or covet, it is much like greed. This was the sin of Ahab and Jezebel. Let's continue. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, placed a seal on them, and sent them to the elders and nobles who lived in Naboth's city with him. In those letters she wrote, "Proclaim a day of fasting and seat Naboth in a prominent place among the people. But seat 2 scoundrels opposite him and have them bring charges that he has cursed both God and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death." So the elders and nobles who lived in Naboth's city did as Jezebel directed in the letters she had written to them. They proclaimed a fast and seated Naboth in a prominent place among the people. Then 2 scoundrels came and sat opposite him and brought charges against Naboth before the people, saying, "Naboth has cursed both God and the king." The story takes a sad turn. Jezebel is now sinning against the 8th commandment, "You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor." In this commandment, God protects his gift of good name. Our reputation is important so that others respect and trust us. Proverbs 22:1 says, "A good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold." Let's continue. So they took him outside the city and stoned him to death. Then they sent word to Jezebel, "Naboth has been stoned to death." As soon as Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned to death, she said to Ahab, Get up and take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite that he refused to sell you. He is no longer alive, but dead." When Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, he got up and went down to take possession of Naboth's vineyard. This story ends with sins against the seventh and fifth commandments, theft and murder. Thoughts and desires can be extremely dangerous and sinful. James 1:13-15 says, "When tempted, no one should say, 'God is tempting me.' For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death." Sin comes directly from our heart, and our only hope is a change of heart. God must intervene, and we have that new heart in Jesus. Let's close our study of the 10 Commandments with a question. Can we achieve the perfection required by the commandments? No, we cannot. We will never be perfect here on earth. We can only confess, together with Paul, as he writes in Romans 7:25, "Who will rescue me from this body that is subject to death? Thanks be to God, who delivers me through Jesus Christ, our Lord." Only then will we have comfort. I'm Pastor Peter. Please continue, and may God bless you as your faith is strengthened through his word.